Hey everyone, let me know if you guys can hear me. I think I would have this volume thing down by now, but I don't. So I wanted to get on here today and just talk about some other things that I didn't get a chance to talk about the other day, yesterday, day before, whichever day it was. Hey Foxy, hey Luann, Jenny Mae, Mark, Bill, Rosebud, hello, Moonchild. So I did set up kind of like jot down a little bit of, not a little bit, but a few bullet points. That way I'm sure I will get on some sort of rant, and I say that I'm not going to keep this too long and it ends up always being like 2 hours. So, um, but I did write some bullet points so that I'll try not to like be all over the place for you guys. We'll just wait a couple more minutes for some late people like I am. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was finishing hanging up Christmas lights. I'm a little behind this year, to say the least, but um, I can't do without Christmas lights. It's just impossible. So I lost track of time and I came inside and I was like, oh God, it's like time to start like right now. So sorry about that. Um, Jenny May, I was just looking at your question. You said there's a channel that posted something a few hours ago showing the public visitors list for him. Is that able to be found? That's a good question because, well, actually, I don't know if I've ever actually searched for that or even vetted it. But I still take it with a grain of salt. But that's a good question. I'm not sure where these other channels are getting it from. Have you tried just doing an internet search for it? Like if it were me and I put that in my video, I'm not always like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm good about always putting my sources in. Sometimes I just make the videos and I'll put half the sources in and forget, but I do try to go back and put as many sources as I can in for my videos. But if it were me, I would have put that visitor list in the description so that people, or so that you guys don't have to go and search for it yourself and it's right there available for you. But that's just me. Unless I got it from a different video source or something, then I guess, I don't know. That's not really, it's a source, but it's not a source. Of course, of course. Just kidding. Do you remember what the names were on it, Jenny May? I'm just curious because I'm just wondering if it's an old one or if it's a newer one. Hey, Angelina. Hey, West Haven. Yeah, Mark, you're right. Blueberries are pretty expensive, especially fresh blueberries are very expensive to feed chickens, but they love them. So But believe it or not, Sweet Pea did get tired of them after a while, so that's good. I mean, they're just like us. We get tired of eating, like, if you eat, I don't know, the same thing, a pizza over and over again. Well, actually, I take that back. Pizza doesn't really ever get old. Pizza's always pretty much a good choice, safe choice. Rosebud, those were who were, oh, that was who was on the visitors list. Wait, what? Who's the second one? The Griffin last name. Okay, yeah, good question. I don't know who that is either. I guess we could search for it, but hey, Dave. First is 42 years old, and second is 43 years old. Yeah, Mark, that's what I feed him too, is frozen corn. That is pretty cheap, you're right. But they're so picky. They're like I've tried feeding him so many things, and they're just so picky. Like they love grapes, they like strawberries, they love corn, um, they like oats. But I've tried feeding them other stuff, and they're just excuse me, no, I'm not eating that. Whatever, I'm not eating that lettuce you just put in front of me. Like, what is lettuce? But and of course, when they were smaller and younger, I was scared that they were gonna like choke on the grapes. So, um, or the strawberries. So I would cut them up for them first, and then feed it to them. And so now they're like all spoiled, and they won't peck at it themselves. Or so yeah, I just spoiled them. So that probably wasn't the best idea. But hey, FRV. Hello, Bang Bang Kiss Kiss 007. That's fun to say. Hi, Unjustified. Mr. Unjustified. How are you? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started so that we're not wasting any more time. Um, Talking about my chickens. So the first thing I want to address a little bit is there's a number of people, obviously, you guys are well aware of, going around and claiming to know Chris or know the Watts, or, the the family, and not saying that they don't. I'm not saying that at all. They very well could know the family. I mean, they've shown letters from him and what have you. However, the ones that are coming out and claiming that to have direct contact with Chris and the family, hi Genevieve, um, they there seems to be a lot of never a straight answer, or they kind of like wiggle their way out of relevant questions, or there's a lot of I believe this, or I think that, and it doesn't make sense to me. And of course, I'm talking about each each one of them has probably a different motive or different reason for whatever they're doing. But for supposedly being in direct contact with, the family and Chris, like it seems like they're, why don't they have more answers? Or why, when people ask, or we ask, KK, I think that's what everyone's um, referring to her by, KK questions, relevant questions, she either, again says, I believe, or I think this, or it's like, but why are you questioning everything? And you're coming to us saying that you have direct contact, like from the horse's mouth, but you're speculating like more than we are, it seems like. Um, or it's well, why did Chris do this, or why did Chris do that? And then she'll say, well, I'm not really sure. I'll ask him next time I talk to him. So do you see what I'm getting at here? Well, for one, I should have started with this. I don't understand why they think that Chris would tell them the truth in the first place, because he doesn't tell the truth at all, obviously. So I'm not sure what makes any of them think that he would be truthful to them. However, they're not even getting like any answers, or as it seems, because they're doing the whole I believe and I think and I'm not really sure, and or I I don't know how many times I've seen people ask, why did he put the girls in the oil tanks? And she kind of explained that, but there's never like a straight answer from her. And it's like, and that's something that I question, and it makes me suspicious, because it should be open and shut when you can, ask these questions straight from the horse's mouth, like I said. So that's one of the reasons why I made the video that I did. And I tried, and if it came off a little bit confusing, I do apologize about that. But I wanted to do it without, um, you know, pointing. So I guess it not. Well, I guess it kind of did point fingers, but wanted to do it without doxing the person. You guys, if you guys followed me for a while, you know that I'm not I hardly ever talk about other channels. I mean, unless I'm saying go check out this channel because they're great or whatever, if I'm giving them a shout out, but I don't ever like bring up other channels and say negative things about them. So, but the reason why I made that video about her channel was because, or is because, it has a lot to do with what's going on in this case and what I'm trying to show you guys, as far as not believing everything you hear, asking questions. For instance, why did she make this channel, going on over 2 years after the fact? Just pops up out of nowhere and says that she, has damning evidence, and starts going back to Chris's first confession of how Shanann killed the girls. So these are the kind of things that I want you guys to like, sit back and think about for a second, and just look at the whole scenario, and just be like, okay, that's weird. Why are they coming up now and making this channel? And why are they just, why are they hyping it all up like a TV show? Like, coming up on, in a couple days, the revelation in the reckoning, just hyping it up like it's a TV show. Like, this isn't a TV. Well, in a sense it is, but like hyping everything up like a murder case. So you just have to wonder what their motives are, I guess. And does everybody always have like a motive for like a malicious motive, I guess? No, but when it comes to people who are involved in this case, I'm going to question their motive and ask questions until they can prove to me otherwise, that I shouldn't feel that way. Hey, Mr. Share. Um, so I made the video, like I said, because again, it's all these breadcrumbs that I talk about and these clues that they leave. And again, I hope when I say they, you guys know who I'm referring to. The powers that be. But even that saying can trigger the algorithm. So I say they. So they're, so all the breadcrumbs, all their little clues that they're leaving, all their prior, foreknowledge. Again, I can't say that those words. Here we go again. And everything, like almost everything, again, like I know I sound like a broken record, but everything in this that they showed us in this case, it represents something, it's symbolic of something, or it means something, or it's again one of their breadcrumbs. I don't know what else to call them. Clues, breadcrumbs that they leave. And I don't know about you guys, but when I first saw the name of her channel, I thought it was kind of a weird name for her channel. And this is just speculation, this is just my opinion, but I believe that by doing what this channel is doing, they are trying to get people worked up again. They, by saying that, Chris is innocent from killing the kids, and that Shanann was the one that did it, and it gets people fired up, and it gets people talking about the case again. Right when you think it's about to die down, something always comes out, whether it be a prison interview or phone calls or somebody, claiming to know Chris and getting letters back and forth. To me, that's still all hearsay, and it doesn't prove anything. But so, like I said, in my opinion, I think that, well, number one, I know that the motives are not genuine. They're not, they're there to push an agenda, which in this case, I can tell you that everyone involved in this case is there to push an agenda. And as you can tell, it's working because people are fired up about it. They're the ones that are emotionally invested in this case are furious that she's talking about Shanann like this again. And but that's what they want. They want people to be emotional, be distraught, like worked up, focus their attention on the case and not what's going on around us. And there's a lot of shit going on around us right now. And as long as people keep believing all this information that they're putting out, they're going to keep spewing out the information. And with the information that I found when I researched the channel name, it only further shows me personally that they are definitely there to push an agenda. And I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. It might be a little bit different of an opinion as far as the agenda goes, but either way, they're still pushing some sort of agenda. Yeah, Luane. Yeah, and also people are paying money to hear what she has to say and follow the money. So, and then I saw a question, Jenny May, you said, what's the first thing that comes to Revelations? The first thing that came to my mind was, the book of Revelations. Although I don't know a ton about it, it didn't take me long to find those connections at all, which we will get into in just a few moments. So then you have the other people, and I don't like to name drop, but I'm sure, you guys will know who I'm talking about. But then I brought this up on my D Live last night, a little bit. But if someone comes out into the public eye or into social media and starts, telling their story, whatever the story may be, and present it as factual, in my opinion, I feel that that person or people should be able to back up what they're saying, or at least when asked relevant questions about what they're presenting as factual, they should be more than willing to answer any questions that people might have. So when I see people ask relevant questions and they're getting timed out and they're getting reprimanded for asking just not rudely, just simple questions, like relevant questions that people should be asking. And when I see that, but then when I personally experience it, then that makes me even more suspicious. So, for instance, I asked, and now you guys are gonna know who I'm talking about, but that's okay. I said, how were Dylan and Chris able to, because the person telling their story about all this, they said that Chris and Dylan, her fiance, were working on the book for 6 months, working together and writing it. And so when I went and looked up Dylan's information, on the inmate, Dodge Correctional website, if you go to his movement tab, you can see that he's never in one place for very long. So he's a temporary inmate, so they move him from, unit to unit or different jail, for the time being until they can figure out what to do with him or whatever. Compared to Chris, which would be, he'd be a permanent stay. So when someone says that they were working on a book for 6 months together, and as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was under the impression that they can't just call each other, other inmates can't call each other from at another prison or whatever. So even if Dylan got moved out of Dodge Correctional, how were they in contact unless they were writing letters back and forth, which is possible. But I said, how were they able to work on a book for 6 months if Dylan isn't even in Dodge Correctional long enough for like, he's like, it's like maybe a week or maybe, you know, a month or something, but he's been in and out of there so many times. And then when I get like reprimanded and say, oh, the family's hurting right now, Megan, please don't ask any questions, or please don't, or not right now, you know. And it's like, whoa, like, excuse me, because I'm asking just a relevant question. I'm not being rude about it, and that's something that I should be allowed to ask, or anybody else for that matter. And that's when you have to question what their motives are, in my opinion. That's what I mean. That to me is suspicious. And then you have a family member of this person tell me, you don't know shit. And I said, okay. I said, you're right. I don't know shit about it. That's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking a relevant question. So why the attack? Why, you know, if you're going to come out and tell the public or tell, you know, social media your story, then you better be willing to, you know, answer some questions. I think that's fair, logical. So after I say that, then another mod tells me to, you know, back off because the family's hurting right now, or they're going through a lot. Okay, you know, I understand that. We're all going through a lot, whatever. But why am I not allowed to ask relevant questions? And same thing goes for the other channel. Whenever a question's asked that they don't like or they don't know the answer to, um, you know, they skirt around it or come back with a, you know, a question with a question, or, you know, just don't answer it all or ignore it. So that's kind of like a couple of examples of what I mean by not just like believing everything that someone says. Because like just the fact that I see all these people just believe everything that these, you know, that they're saying, and it's not necessarily, I'm not trying to say that they're not being truthful with what they're saying, but when, again, when you ask questions and you're told to not ask questions, that to me is a huge red flag. So I just wanted to mention as far as what's going on with all that. And then that's it for that. Because I don't even like, you know, really giving them the time of day. And I'm gonna try not to ignore the chat here. I'm gonna try and multitask. Hi, Marina Del Rey. Hey, Emmalou. Miss Ladybug. Hey, Miss Mensa. Hey, Becky. Hey, Weirdo. Jenny C. Okay, so next. So I want to go back to KK's channel and the meaning. You guys know how Chris has been, or they're, you know, people are saying how Chris is, since he's been in prison, he's been, or they talk about how he can recite all the Bible verses or all the, you know, the verses from the Bible, and he's like memorized the entire Bible, and that's all we hear KK talking about, right? Oh, Chris knows the whole Bible, Bible. He's like, I can't believe how he can remember all that, all these verses. And so again, what are the odds that in the book of Revelations, because you have Revelation and the Reckoning, what are the odds that in the book of Revelations, essentially it's talks of the apocalypse and doomsday. And then you have the American Horror Story connections, and the season that came on Nate's TV was the apocalypse trailer. So do you see where like I'm going with the connection things? Like, some people might say, oh, okay, well, that's just a coincidence that it's a Revelation and the Reckoning, and that Chris is just doing reading the book of Revelations in memorizing the Bible. Like, I get that. I know that some things can be coincidental, but when you add it to all of these other connections that I've been putting out and showing you guys for the past year and a half, it stopped being coincidental like a long time ago, long time ago. There's only so many times that it can happen to where it's not coincidental anymore. It's put there on purpose. So, and again, like I said, 90% of, or I don't like to use like percentages because then I'll get snapped at for it, but the majority of what is shown to us in this case is relevant and means something, and it's put there for a reason. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I'll keep saying it. So we have the Book of Revelations, the Apocalypse, and then we have Apocalypse, American Horror Story that comes on HTV, talks about it. You have the American Horror Story Apocalypse poster that I put in the video that shows Revelation, and then it has the 8, in it for season 8. No, I didn't put this in the video because I was just on a time crunch, but I'll tell you that the 11-3 is significant, and I'm very close to figuring out that significance. But when the same numbers keep popping up in the same area, and like in the case, and and all these other events that I am trying to show you guys, it means something. So in the first episode of American Horror Story 1984, the counselors are driving to the camp, and they stop at a convenience store right before the camp. On the gas station sign where it shows the gas prices, because remember it's 1984, so it's $1.13. So there you have 11-3 again. So what are the odds that you have the revelation that I pointed out in the video, that's 1132-1, you have, and it just so happens to be in the apocalypse. Then you have Shanann and Chris that were married on 11-3. You have the gas price in American Horror Story, that's $1.13. So you have 11-3. So these are the kind of like breadcrumbs and again these clues that I've been telling you guys about. And I haven't had a chance to go back, and I should have wrote them down from the beginning, and I didn't, and I'm kicking myself. But If you Okay, sorry, my window's open, so it's everything's loud out there. If you look up all these verses that like Chris has been writing in his letters and stuff that he always leaves, it's likely that those are going to have some sort of hidden meaning in them, or to them. So that's on my list to do. But and all the letters that he's put out for in Cadle, with when the whole Cadle thing, and these other letters that KK showing and whatever, like there'll be clues in there. I just haven't had a chance to even like read them, and to be honest with you, I don't even want to, because I just don't even want to go there. Like, the last thing I want to do is read one of his letters. So but so when numbers keep popping up, the same numbers keep popping up, um the same names, the Lees, the Nicoles, just anything like that, just look out for stuff like that in these like cases. And so the next thing is, and I was going to put this in the video as well, but then I don't know why I left it out, because it has to do with it, of course, but I just wanted to stick to mainly the Book of Revelations and American Horror Story. But today on my community page, I posted a picture of a John Grisham book, for those of you who haven't seen it on my community page. And it's called The Reckoning. So this is like, just again, something I came across when searching, for other information like the Book of Revelations, and I even searched for Revelation and the Reckoning, because I don't know hardly anything about the Book of Revelation. So again, I'm learning stuff a lot as I go with this case. So on my community page, I posted the picture of the John Grisham book, and it's titled The Reckoning. On the front of the book, underneath the title, it says, "What makes a good man a killer?" So how many times have we all asked that, like, how could someone like Chris Watts, who never showed any prior signs of violent tendencies, or nobody had anything bad to say about the guy. He was a great father, great husband, always on time, all around good employee. So you guys get the point. But people haven't been able to fathom how someone like Chris Watts could murder his entire family, just because there was no signs. There was no, just one day, just all of a sudden snap and murder your family. So what are the odds that this John Grisham book, and there's been stuff like this in other events as well, that line up with that specific event's narrative. So what are the odds that it's a thriller book about a guy that just snaps and kills all of a sudden one day. And then I had to, in order to get the picture fitted correctly, I had to crop out the bottom part. But if you look up the book, in the synopsis, it mentions families feuding, and we know the Nutgate and the feuding going between the Watts and the Ruseks. So could it be a coincidence? Yeah, it could, but it's something to keep in mind for sure. But this is the kind of stuff I want you guys to look out for. Because again, it's only so many times it can happen to where it stops being coincidental. Hi, Vincina. Hi, Paula. Hi, Humanimal. I think I said that right. I think I said hum animal last time, and I was like, I don't think that's how you're supposed to say it. Okay, so next. Oh, okay, so here I am jumping around again, but sorry about this, but I want to go back to the video that I made about KK and Revelation and the Reckoning. What are, again, what are the odds that when I'm looking up information about something else, I mean, it still had to do with the case, but it didn't have anything to do with KK's channel in particular. So, um, and that's how, some of these, not all of them, but a few of them, these little breadcrumbs and these connections I've found just by searching something else, and I've just happened to come across them. But a lot of the other ones are just like in our face. So, while researching a little bit more, and not only that, but making sure that I spelled the words right, because I hate when I misspell things, especially if I'm, putting out facts and information, or, claiming them as facts. I went to look up the Hegelian dialectic, and I wanted to make sure that I spelled it right. And so I said, well, maybe I should just, while I'm here, skim across it a little bit, and maybe I'll learn something I didn't already know about it. So that's when I researched that, that's when I came across the Kaufman, Walter Kaufman. Walter Kaufman was a philosopher who was influenced by Friedrich Hegel, who came up with the theory, the Hegelian dialectic. And when I saw Kaufman, I'm like, well, that's weird. Isn't that what KK's last name is? And so the Hegelian dialectic it's what the powers that be, they use in order to push an agenda, or agendas, like all the time. It happens all the time. So, so that's why it's relevant to one another, even though I didn't know that it was going to be that relevant, if that makes sense. So if you haven't seen my video yet, or you're not familiar with the Hegelian dialectic, it's essentially what they do is they will create a problem. We then, we, the people, the public, will then react to that problem, and we say, oh my God, that's terrible, please, help, do something about this is awful. So we don't think, we just react. And so we then turn to them for a solution, not knowing that they were actually the ones who created the problem in the first place. So Hegelian dialectic, also called problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, we react, and then we look to them for the solution. It's actually really fascinating, and it's actually quite brilliant, to say the least. but essentially that's what they do. So for example, and this is going to sound kind of funny, but I got to reword it for you guys. So for instance, an example would be, they create the problem, which would be educational facilities would be used for target practice on younger learning individuals. Did you get that? Because I have to reword it, unfortunately. I know, and it's funny, but it's not funny because it's really frustrating. But so again, I'll say it one more time. The problem that they create is there'll be an educational facility building, and it will be used for target practice on younger learning individuals. So again, they created the problem, which is the target practice on the younger learning individuals. So then the public react because it's so horrific, and innocent people die, and so we react to that, and then we turn to them for a solution to this problem, which is all of these happening over and over again. Do you get my drift? So we say, please help, like, please stop this target practice at these educational facilities. But we don't realize that they were the ones that actually created the problem in the first place. And then they bring in the solution to the problem, which then pushes their original agenda, which would be to ban the things that cowboys and gangsters like to use. Does that make sense? I hope so. Becky, great. Yes, I do believe, I just saw your question. Do you believe it has to, or do you think it has to do with free speech? Yes, I do. Definitely. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. It's hard to explain something when you have to turn it all around, but and then I want to go into a little bit just some things that, like, and I've mentioned these before in videos and my other lives, but again, it doesn't hurt to go over them again because they're important. So I know a lot of people think that law enforcement is covering up accomplices or other people involved, just essentially some sort of cover up. And it is, in a sense, it's kind of a cover up, but it's like not really a cover up. So what I mean by that is, I personally don't believe that they're going to put out that much information for us just to make them look stupid or incompetent, or that they don't know what they're doing, or because how do I explain this? By putting out all this information, they would know that we're going to see it, all of it, and we're going to notice the inconsistencies. So I just don't think that they're going to put it out there just to make themselves look stupid, if that makes sense. They put this, and I've seen it before in these other events. They say that they were forced to put this information out there and be transparent because the media made a big hype about it. But let's not forget that the media, all of them, are owned by the same people, and they all work for the powers that be. So when they put this information out there, and they act as though they're transparent, but clearly they're not, because we have all these unanswered questions. But it's put out there for all of us, again, so that we get distracted. We, go down the rabbit holes, and dig, and we're distracted. We don't pay attention to what's going on around us. And not only that, but the main purpose of it is the psychological aspect of it. By releasing all of Shanann's, or keeping them public, her Facebook, um, and watching all her videos and watching the girls, that gets people's emotions, everyone's emotions going, and it pulls at heartstrings. And that's where the whole, problem, reaction, solution comes in. They're creating this problem, which is the Watts case, the horrific murders, and now we hear about it and we react. We don't think, we just react with our emotions. We're upset. How could Chris do something like this? How could he murder his entire family? Like, innocent, and especially when innocent women and children involved, or anyone that dies. But that's when people react, and they don't, sit back and think, maybe logic, even if it sounds so unbelievable, they'll still believe it because they're still thinking with their emotions and not thinking rationally. And that's why I always say, if you can, which I know, especially, it's going to be difficult now because, we're over 2 years invested in this. So, but if you can, try to put your emotions aside, because they're going to get in the way of seeing what's really going on with this case. So it's really important that you at least try to, like, just shove them aside for a little bit. And I know that it's easier said than done. Like, I'm not pretending that it's something that would be easy. But emotions will get in the way of seeing facts and seeing what's truly going on with this case, this crazy circus of a case, and why nothing makes sense. Hi, Mia. So, for instance, like, they release they release what seems like a lot of information. I mean, and granted, it, from what we normally get, yes, it's a lot of information. But it's really not a lot of information when you think about it, or a lot of evidence. Like, there's so much missing. There's all the things that are that we need, or evidence that we need to answer the questions that we've been left with. We don't have those, or they didn't provide those for us. But yet they will give us useless body cam footage, like, Ronnie getting a ride from the jail, or from the jail to a hotel, because, obviously Chris just confessed. So, Like, why is that relevant to the case? I mean, granted, if you're going to be transparent, you're going to want to include even the useless stuff, regardless if it's damning evidence or not. However, why not include all of the evidence and all of the information with the useless stuff as well, if that makes sense? Um, so it's my point is, why is it necessary? Why do we need to see Ronnie being transported to a hotel room from the police? Or why were we given body cam footage of um, you know, Officer Katie Lyons' body cam footage standing outside the Watts home waiting for the Thayers to come pick up Dieter from the house? Like, I mean, I love animals. I love, I like love my pets, but I don't, that's not relevant to me. Like, this is not, they're not giving us what we need. They're giving us useless stuff, like picking up the dog from the house. And it's 45 minutes or an hour of footage. It's like, what is going on here? Or video footage of Chris being booked into Weld County Jail and getting fingerprinted. Like, what is the point of that? And when have they ever done that? It's it's all a show, okay? It's They know what to put out there. They know that people are going to want to, see Chris being booked into jail. But is it realistic? Is it ever happened before ever? Like, as far as I know, it hasn't. And not only that, but we're led to believe that this man is like a monster who literally like murdered his family with his bare hands. That's what we were led to believe. So if he's that dangerous and that much of a like crazy just piece of shit, like, then why is he walking with no shackles, no handcuffs, just all around this jail cell, or jail unit? And granted, I get it. There's a guy, a military guy with a big old gun. So what? Like, half the time the guy with the big gun was handing Chris paper towels to dry his hands off with. Like, it's just so, like, if you guys think about it, it's so unrealistic. Like, that it's like it's stuff you see in the movies. You see where I'm going with this? So they act as though they're being transparent. They don't release anything to us that would be relevant or that we need, that we're asking for, but yet they release stupid, pointless body cam footage of picking up Dieter and taking Ronnie, to the hotel. Like, it's ridiculous. Um, they only release what they want us to see and what pushes their narrative, and they don't have to release anything else after that. Like, just enough to, push the psychological aspect of everything and push their narrative. And once that's done, they don't have to answer any of the questions for us. Like, I've heard so many times people say, like, why don't they just answer our questions for us? Why? And then we'll stop talking about it. Again, because they don't have to. Number one, because they're legally allowed to lie to us. The mainstream media, law enforcement, they can legally lie to us, and they don't have to answer for any of it. They can push propaganda, fuck with our heads. I'm just going to start saying that now instead of the psychological aspect of it. That's more fun. But they're never going to answer these questions. And we can, try to solve this case until the cows come home. But I've seen it with other events, and people are still trying to figure out ones that happened 2 years before this one even happened, and they're still trying to figure it out, and they've never answered from. They're still, even for this other event, they're still sending FOIA requests, but they're getting denied and denied and denied when they're supposed to be transparent. Says the lawsuit. The same thing with this other event. They claimed that the mainstream media made a big old hype about it, and they sued the police department, and the police department was forced to release all the information, the body cam footage, the 911 calls in the case. Yet people are still trying to figure out what the fuck happened, because they don't. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole psychological part of it. Like, they leave out certain things, and then they give you just enough information so that you, again, will send us down rabbit holes. So we're just searching, and we're never gonna figure it out, because number one, they've only given us half the evidence, and number two, we don't even know if what they've given us is factual. And you can, again, fill out as many core requests if you want, and I'm not talking about like media saying that they filled out a core request or a FOIA request and released it. Like, I don't trust anything from the media, but regular civilians like us, if we try to go and get Kessinger's phone data dump, they're not going to release it. They're not going to. And of course, I'll probably say that, and then they'll do it or something and make me look like an ass. But from other events where I've seen these same characteristics, I'm gonna believe patterns over, I'm gonna believe consistency over hearsay or, whatever. And then the other case I mentioned, and I can't say it because the algorithms, but again, same thing. They were forced, quote unquote, to release the information and be transparent, yet the person, the patsy, the whatever, the person responsible for allegedly killing these people, his internet searches were just like Kristen Kessinger's. There was like, maybe, I think they showed us 5 or something. I don't know. It's, in the 2-digit range, like 10 maybe. I don't know. But conveniently enough, all this guy's internet search history just happened to coincide and matched perfectly with the narrative leading up to the the day it all happened. So just like, again, Kristen Kessinger's, we only get very few like internet searches, and I'm sorry, but especially these days, like, any of our search histories, there's going to be more than 5 searches, and I don't care if they think law enforcement thinks it's relevant or not. Like, if you're supposed to be transparent, I want to see, I don't care how many pages of internet search history it takes, I want to see all of it. If you're, talking about 4 lives lost. Okay. So let me see. What did I want to talk about next? Okay, so another issue with the and there's many of them, and I think that's why I'm always all over the place because I never know where to start. But hey, Stephanie. Hey, flying squirrel. Um, so we all know that there is an issue with the whole crime scene, right? They never actually gave us or told us like where exactly the murders happened. Um, Now, by doing this, by not providing an actual crime scene, they don't have to do any actual crime scene investigating, such as collecting blood samples, hair, bodily fluids, blood splatter analysis, you name it. Like, that's why there was like, they're not going to, they're not going to do that because if they don't have to. So they're not going to go through all the trouble of bringing in and crime scene investigators and doing the whole what they're actually supposed to do in a real investigation. They're not going to do that if they don't have to. If they don't, they're not going to do it if they don't have to in order to push their agenda, in order to make people believe what they're seeing. So, based on my theory, why do you think that they had Chris, when I say they, strangle and suffocate Shanann and the girls for their narrative? I want to see like maybe like that might be kind of a confusing question, but I want to see what you guys think, like as far as, or I guess I could word it a different way. Let's just do this. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. In my opinion, I believe they, the powers that be, the ones in control of the narrative, the reason why, and based on my theory, the reason why they had Chris strangle and suffocate Shanann and the girls is because if he used a gun or a knife or some sort of deadly, yeah, I know, Dorothy C, I'm sorry. I know sometimes it's confusing the way I have to word things. If there was some sort of weapon involved other than Chris's hands as the weapon, um, there would be most likely blood splatter, pooling of blood, um, entry or exit wounds, just making more work that they don't have to do. Like, why pick that narrative um, if they can avoid doing all of that investigative work? Does that make sense? That's just an extra step they would have to go. So having Chris strangle the girls and suffocate them, there's no murder weapon. And then again, now we have no actual like crime scene evidence because there's no blood and there's and that's the reason why they don't give us a straight answer for the crime scene, so that they can avoid actually doing any investigating like a real investigation should be doing. And that's why the house was never taped off, because they, I don't know where they were killed. We don't know where he killed them. We're just going to take his word for it. Maybe it was in the truck. Maybe it was at Survey. He changed his story like 4 times, but we don't really know. And I don't know why I'm talking like this, but sorry, I can't do like a Rourke voice, or I would. But so by having Chris do it that way, and having no murder weapon, no again, actual like evidence in the house, because again, we were told that, he just strangled her. So again, there's no blood. No, do you see what I'm saying? And I know I keep repeating myself, but it would just be an unnecessary step for them to take to go that route with the narrative. And why go through the trouble, all that trouble of, because they have to be transparent, right? They have to show us the evidence. So they're not going to go through all that trouble to stage a bloody crime scene. And not only that, but most likely people are going to probably notice inconsistencies with a staged crime scene. And you have to remember that these people, they know what they're doing. Like, they have been doing it for years. They are experts at it, so they know what they can do to manipulate the public and to they know what the public's going to react to and not react to, and what's going to trigger us and not trigger us. So they know what they're doing. Another example is why they chose to have in the narrative Chris put the girls in the oil tanks. Most everyone is always asked that question. We've never understood why Chris would do that when he could just have buried them with Shanann, right? Why take all that extra work? Besides the whole symbolism that comes with the oil, the side-by-side batteries, and in the discovery, it says that when they were pulling the girls out of the tanks, one of the girls was facing upward in the tank, and the other girl, and I don't remember which one it was, if it was, if Bella was face down or Cece was face up, but it specifically, and remember I told you guys that everything means something in this case, like everything's symbolic, everything is the breadcrumb, everything is connected. And you're going to want to look out for, again, numerology, occult symbolism, Masonic symbolism. So in the discovery, it says that one of the girls was facing down and the other child was facing up. That would be a reference to as above, so below. I know it's going to sound crazy to you guys, but I'm telling you, they put it in the discovery and they referenced that specifically for a reason. So besides the whole symbology of it, and you have the side-by-side batteries, which could represent the Masonic pillars, um, and most likely several other symbolic meanings, but those are the ones that stand out to me the most. But the reason why I believe that they had Chris for the narrative put the girls in the tanks is, and I know some of you aren't gonna like this, but I I have to get kind of past that point now, and so I hope you guys understand. But that is, and how I mentioned with the crime scene, they know what they're doing, and they're going to be multiple steps ahead of us. By putting the girls, allegedly putting the girls in the tanks, and making, as they say, their bodies highly flammable, um, where allegedly the caskets had to be sealed because they were flammable from the crude oil. Um, by doing this, they um, one, it makes the bodies unidentifiable, and also plays into the whole Sandy identifying the girls and Shanann over the phone, which I've never heard of anybody identifying a body over the phone in a homicide case. But I've had friends tell me that they accidentally threw in their child's diaper into the washing machine, and after one wash, like the diaper was like mush, like there wasn't very much left to that diaper. So how is it possible that a pull-up can still be, I mean, I'm not saying that it would be completely like dissolved. I'm not a crude oil expert, but based off of just a diaper and just water and soap, after one wash, not 3 days, just one load, is mush. But then Sandy was still able to identify Cece because she was wearing a pull up. So do you see what I'm saying with that? So um, that's another one of those things, and I know other people have questioned it, but it's it's a it's a good question, because that's one of those things where it's like, okay, identifying the girls and Shanann over the phone, that doesn't happen in a homicide case. Like, how can you identify someone based on hair color and whether they're pretty or not, or if they're wearing a pull up, like, and I've had people argue with me and say, well, because all the evidence leads to Chris doing it, and he confessed to it. Yeah, I get that, and that's most likely why they had Chris leave all of that, the rake handle, the sheet, and all these items that normal, like, serial killers wouldn't do, or not serial killers, but murderers wouldn't do, like just common sense stuff. Like, you don't just leave like evidence scattered all around, like, especially and it's not just one item, it's like multiple items, rake handle, rake, sheet, whatever else you left over, like, we're talking multiple, not just one. And it reminds me exactly of the other event that I was just talking about, because they had evidence, scattered all around the crime scene, will you? And it looked like totally staged, like 100% staged. Like they wanted us to make sure that no one else was involved, but who they wanted us to believe. So just like Chris, and so they didn't want people like They wanted everything to lead back to Chris. And so, so my point is that when someone would argue with me and say that, well, he confessed and all the evidence and his GPS, um, so Sandy didn't really have to identify the bodies because it's all the evidence points to it being Cece and Bella and Jan. So, by saying that, they're saying that there's no other, that it's okay to identify him over the phone. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not likely that it could be any other woman and two children, is their argument. Um, but you don't think that the powers that be and the people that are controlling this narrative haven't already thought of that? So that's the reason why the items, or Chris left all those items at the crime scene. So that way nobody would ask that kind of question and go, well, it could have been another woman and her two children. It could have been, you can't identify someone over the phone. Well, but all the evidence leads to Chris, and he confessed, and it was his work truck, and it was. Do you see where I'm going with this? Hopefully. Um, so it would remove any possibility of it being anybody else but Shanann and the girls. And again, they know this because they're good at it, and that's what they do. So also with the crude oil thing, by having the narrative say that Chris put the girls in the oil tanks, um, again, their caskets were allegedly sealed because of, them being highly flammable, even though the coroner states that the oil was rinsed off of the girls at Survey 309 as well as at the coroner's. So twice the oil was removed. So again, I'm not an oil expert, but I can't imagine them being still highly flammable when the oil was rinsed off of them twice. But anyways, that's here nor there. So now we're told that the girls are in oil for 3 days. They're highly flammable. Their caskets are sealed. So no one in their right mind is going to have an open casket for these children. And that's one of those failure to, this is going to sound bad, but failure to prove that or show evidence of what they're saying. Because they know that no one in their right mind, the powers that be, the ones who are, again, know what they're doing and are experts at this, they know that if anybody questions it, or they know that most people are not going to say, I want to see proof that there's girls and, that those girls are in the cat. Like, they know that most people are not going to do that. But for the ones who do, who question the inconsistencies and know about these events and their patterns and their characters and what they do all the time, um, the ones that do ask, they are, again, the conspiracy theorists. They get shunned. They're called crazy. They're called heartless. They're called sick because they want to have, see proof of it. Like, so, and again, they know that. So they know that they're going to have the upper hand with the people that are never going to question it and just believe it. And then the ones who do, they know that they're going to be ridiculed and they're going to look down upon and they're going to be called crazy and they're not going to want to speak up anymore because they're scared of speaking up or asking questions because of that reason. So they know this. So, and then on top of the whole Chris dumping them in the oil tanks, this now makes the case that much more horrific, and um, it heightens the shock value, um, and it pulls at heartstrings, and it forces people to think with their emotions and not think logically about how, someone could fit toddlers into an 8-inch hole. And yes, have people questioned that? We've all probably questioned how that's possible. But then again, there are the majority who will never question how it's possible to fit something not the same shape that's bigger into a different shaped hole. Like, so they know again that the majority is not ever going to ask or question that inconsistency. And then people like us, the ones that do, again, they don't have to answer for it. And they know that we're the minority in their other, because there's not enough of us asking questions, if that makes sense. So those are just what I wanted to go over a little bit today. And I know I got a little bit off track, but I tried to keep it sort of in line there. But I'm really trying to try my best to really portray what I'm saying to you guys. But again, the whole censorship thing, and it's just really difficult. So I just appreciate you guys being patient with me, and playing my word game with me, I guess you could say. Like, does anybody have any, like, well, I'm sure you guys ask questions, and I'm sorry I couldn't pay attention to the chat again, but if you guys want to put any questions you have about anything that I just talked about, I will do my best to try to answer it, but I can't promise. And this is stuff, again, that I went over in my last live on my last stream on D Live. But they're important, so I wanted to do a live stream today to go over what I talked about on D Live as best as I could under the circumstances, because they are important, and they are a big aspect of, again, what I'm trying to portray and to show you guys. So that's why I did the live today. And if I have to, do these like how long has it been? Hour and a half. If I have to do, an hour and a half live, fumbling over my words, I'll do it, because it's important. So Becky Gray, what is, I've never heard of Rokefin? But no, I'm just D Live and YouTube. Yeah, Stephanie, I know. And I don't expect, all you guys to go over there, but it does make it a lot easier for me to say what I want to say without, again, having to stop all the time like I keep doing, and pausing and like speaking in tongue, because as of now it's not censored over there. And again, I want to use it to my advantage while I can, before because I'm sure it's going to happen. So it's inevitable. But until it does, I want to use it to my advantage. I would like to know that too, Dave. I would like to know how the rake handle got broken into 3 pieces. It's like a really old rake. Sharma Lily, yeah, that whole defense thing with the forensics team going in there, and that's a really good question because or comment. That's one of the well, everything's weird in this case, and everything is makes no sense, and everything is suspicious. But if you're not familiar or you haven't seen my what video is it? Well, it's the one that I show a lot of the how they're incorporating other high profile murder cases and scenarios from classic horror films and real life serial killers into the Watts narrative. Um, the I In the video I talk about how OJ, his defense team, actually went to his house and didn't tell anybody. They didn't tell the prosecutor or anybody. They went to OJ's house and they rearranged his house to make it look more family friendly, you could say. Took pictures down of him with any of his Caucasian friends. So that way when the jurors saw it, it would look like he was more of a family oriented person. And same thing goes with the defense team, Chris's defense team. They didn't inform anybody that they were going over to the house. And so that's why we're told that the Decano police were called to um, investigate a possible robbery call. So when they got there, though, I always thought it was weird because if it's a possible robbery, why did they go up to the front door and knock on the front door? Like, I don't know if that's what they do for a possible robbery call, but uh, I don't think that they're going to go and like knock on the door. Like, nobody went around to the back to make sure like the possible robber is not going to go out the back. It was very odd to me. And yeah, so they knocked on the door and they opened the door. The defense team was like, oh, hey, da, da, da. And then they just like, would shoot the shit and then got some IDs, some identification, and then left. So definitely go check out that video. And I can't even remember the name of it right now, but it'll come to me. But if you're not familiar with it, that's what they're doing. And there's just so much of this case, you guys. There's like so much, just the extent that they went to like just put all these like clues and breadcrumbs in the connections in American Horror Story, and just it's insane. It's crazy and like brilliant and messed up like all at the same time. But that's why you have like another example of how they incorporated other high profile serial killers and murder cases into the Watts narrative. Just a couple examples. You have Trooper Otto Wilson that worked on the case. Otto Wilson, if you look him up, is a serial killer I think he killed, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was 3. But I mean, so sometimes it'll just be like the last name, but in this instance, it's um, the first and last name. So they didn't even bother to they just did the whole first and last name. Then another example is you have Sergei, I think it's pronounced Tak. Um, he was a Ukrainian serial killer, and he killed, he had 23 victims. And then you have Katie Tak, who is one of the uh, officers that worked on the case, K9 unit. So she bears the same last name as this Ukrainian serial killer that killed 23 people. Um, Again, this is when you start to say, okay, one, maybe coincidental, two, okay, and then you keep seeing more and more, then it stops becoming coincidental, and you start to see that it's put there on purpose. Um, then you have Officer Ted Bandy, and in my opinion, I don't think they, even though they do put it right in our faces, if they would have put Ted Bundy, I think that would have been just a little bit too obvious. So you have Officer Ted Bandy, and we all know who Ted Bundy is, infamous serial killer. So, and those are just a few examples. But again, the other one that I mentioned in the video with the ones I just mentioned, there's another OJ one, there's a Scott Peterson one, there's you know, Kessinger, pretty much trying to appear as like a single white. You got the whole single white female thing going on. Her Denver news photos that she got done look almost identical to Amber Fry's, and down to the black blazer and everything. Like, so the same thing that the producers in American Horror Story do for, or get inspiration for their show, they incorporate cult leaders, serial killers, um, classic horror films, you name it. They're doing the same thing that the American Horror Story producers do with the Watts narrative. So they're also incorporating scenarios and real life murders, whatever, you name it, into the narrative. Just like one of the owners of Lavelle, his name is Jason Camper. You have Friday the 13th, whose name is Jason, and he killed campers. Like, I can't make this shit up, you guys. Like, it's, if you guys have seen all my videos of the connection videos, like, it should be more than enough to at least make you think twice about what we've been told. And they put it right in our faces, and they're not hiding it, and because they don't care. They want us to see it. It's their game. It's they whatever the if they get off on it, I don't, whatever the case may be, but they're doing it, and they've done it for a while, and they're going to keep doing it, and that's why I am showing you guys these characteristics. So in the, in all these other cases that have been happening, these murder cases, like, don't believe what please don't believe me for anything I'm saying. I don't, again, like I always say, don't believe anyone. I don't want you to just believe me because I'm saying it. I wouldn't even feel satisfied with that anyways. Just, I wouldn't want you to believe me. Um, so I don't want you to, I just want you to take what I'm saying and remember it. And in these other homicide cases, or in not just homicide, like any of these mainstream events that, that gain this widespread media attention, anything, but if you're true crime, then let's just focus on the true crime cases. But look for the stuff that these, the numerology, the occult symbolism, the all the characteristics that I always mention. Look for those, and then if you start to see those, then it's likely that they're gonna be like this one. I mean, not, you see what I'm saying? They're not gonna be exactly like it, but if you start seeing the everything that I'm telling you guys in other cases, then before you get emotionally involved in it, step back and think about it for a second, and I promise you that if you guys look out for these and other ones, it's gonna start to make a lot of sense. I promise you. Um, it really will. Because again, they're not. They've been doing the same patterns for a while now, and as long as it's working, as long as it's manipulating people, as long as people believe it, um, they're not gonna. There's no reason to switch up what they're doing if it's working. So that's why you can like find these, and that's how I'm going to prove to you what I'm saying, because I can't provide you sources all the time, and I can't be, because they've been scrubbed. All these other events that they've done, that they're behind, the information scrubbed. I mean, you can search and you might find some, but you're not going to find anything now of past events that go against the official narrative. You're only going to find mainstream media stuff unless you like dig. So unfortunately, that's why it's frustrating too, because I can't just tell you to go and, I mean, you can still find forums and stuff people talking about, but the actual, like, the footage, like camera footage or whatever, it's gone. And you can thank the Honor Network for that, by the way. Um, those are one group that's responsible for it. But again, just remember these characteristics and look for them. And like I said, I promise you, it's gonna make like so much sense. And you're aware of them and you know what to look for, like they're, for the most part, super easy to spot. And once you know about them and you are able to spot them, it's it's gonna be so ridiculous, and you're gonna be like, wow, that is ridiculous. Like why is, like, it's just gonna make a lot of sense. And yeah, Mia, I can't really repeat your comment, but I agree with you. Yes, they're not always the same. So they're all every single one of them is going to be different, and some of them will get more attention than others. It just totally depends on what the narrative is and what is pulls people in at the time. Yeah, I've never been able to find still Chris listed as an inmate, and that's the thing is Scott Peterson, he murdered his pregnant wife, um, unborn baby, and his case was just as high profile, if not more. But we can find everything on him. We know that he's at San Quentin. We know that, I mean, I guess we don't know that, but at least, I mean, because I can't vet that unless I am physically there. That's the thing is impossible to vet a lot of this information that they give us. And again, they know that, unless you're directly involved, um, then there would be no way to vet it. Sure, you can call and say, is so and so in this prison? And they could say, yeah, but that still doesn't mean that they are. Like, they're just either doing their job, or they truly believe that they're there. If they're, if it's a receptionist or whatever. But, at least with Scott Peterson, at least they're being transparent, and they're saying this is where he is, and this is what his job is. This is how much he makes an hour. And a website that where you can send an inmate, like, commissary, that doesn't, to me personally, that doesn't prove anything to me. Um, but again, like, that's an excuse that they use, like, oh, it's for his protection, and for everyone, but it makes no sense when they've told us where he is. So if they've already told us that he's at Dodge Correctional, then how does that, not listing him as an inmate, protect him? It doesn't make any sense. So, oh, you did check Aaron? He's not showing up. Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, guys. Well, I am going to end this. Keep it under 2 hours. I said it was going to be an hour. um, and thank you guys for all being here and again supporting me. I really, really appreciate it. And sticking around to hear what I have to say. So thank you. And thank you to any mods that were in here. Weirdo. And I will see you guys next time.